Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ and Addison back again to talk about some trades and using the DLF Trade Finder and Analyzer to find and analyze those trades. Actually, we didn't use the DLF Trade Finder for this show because I had an idea born out of our usual Wednesday mornings. Hey, man, any ideas? Nope. Actually, that's a lie. You know what? I give Addison all the credit in the world for making these show sheets every week, except for this. This is literally the first time in like 4 years we've been doing this. I made the show sheet this week. He had a very good idea of asking for some user watcher trades, and we would make a show of that, but he never did that.
So forgot.
Blame that guy that we're not talking about your trades right now.
I think we'll do that because you're on vacation next week.
But
then I don't know what we're going to talk about for week one is then the following week.
So
that's week one.
And we don't come out in time to be hurry up, get these guys before the season starts because we come out on Thursday. So that's what we'll do Thursday. So there you go. Start with the comments in here. Put some trades down.
Yep. And then in 2 weeks then before the Thursday night football of the opening night, then that video will drop with your submitted trades.
There you go. Boom. But instead of talking about your trades, I thought it would be interesting to talk about some of my trades that I have made, including players we've talked about recently, because I know that it's a little... I can't find the right word, but like it can almost, I don't want to make it seem like we cherry pick players or trades to talk to. Like when we say you should go buy these players, it's usually because we feel it. We mean it. Mm-hmm. You know, the trades we find where we talk about the value and when we talk about that value we put in there, I think it's good to show that, again, we believe that, which I think was part of the fun of when Addison and I were doing that trade talk that time where we ended up doing the Outhouse Challenge in the comments, and I got me some Tank Dell. And
I got Jalen Waddle, so that's all right.
Can't be sad. So I thought this would be a fun idea. I've been very trade willing lately, where at times where I would normally argue over seconds and thirds and stuff like that, I've just been like, yeah, let's get a deal done. It's almost the season. Let's make some trades. So I have a lot of trades lately, which I guess isn't super surprising anyway. But I realized as I was scrolling through my leagues to look who to talk about today, they just happen to be about the players we've talked about. Though one of the players is literally because we talked about him, but we'll get to that. So let's go to the first trade that we're going to talk about. And this has a couple of people we've talked about lately. The first trade, okay, these are all Trade Addicts trades, which means they're 12-team, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium, where tight ends get 1.75 points per reception and 0.05 points for return yardage, because TA1 is the only league that does not have it, but none of these are from TA1. So there you go.
Cool.
Okay, so let's talk about this first trade. It is Justin Herbert and Jaden Reed for Malik Nabers, Brian Thomas Jr., and Daniel Jones. Now, clearly, well, not clearly, usually, I will say how I feel about a trade. Addison will say how he feels about a trade. But since these are mine, I'm going to read the values, and then I'm going to let Addison go first, because clearly I know how I feel about it. He doesn't know which side is mine. So Justin Herbert and Jaden Reed. Justin Herbert, 668. Jaden Reed, 187 for a total of 855. Malik Nabers, 540. Brian Thomas Jr., 184. Disrespect. And Daniel Jones, 74 for a total of 798. So Addison, what do you think about Herbert and Reed for Nabers, Thomas Jr., and Jones?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I've been trying to see if I remember which side is yours on this one, but I don't know if we either talked about it or if I haven't seen this one yet, because I can't remember.
You said you saw it, because I made this before we talked about. By the way, I would like to point out, we talked about Justin Herbert, Malik Nabers, and Brian Thomas Jr. in the past few weeks. We talked about Justin Herbert, I think, last week, and you brought up that you saw this trade. But we didn't actually talk about it, so you might not actually easily remember which side was mine.
I would actually take the Justin Herbert side on this one. I could see this being, I could have a cop out like, roster construction or,
none of that.
dependent kind of answer.
None of that. That's not what we're here for.
I think just in general, I would take the Justin Herbert side on this one. I would take Justin Herbert over Malik Nabers. I feel like that's not really a hot take, especially in Superflex leagues. Jaden Reed and Brian Thomas, I agree for the most part with the analyzer that like they feel like very similar players right now.
Yeah.
I think that Brian Thomas Jr. a year from now could be a lot higher than Jaden Reed. But I agree that as of right now, it kind of they feel synonymous. So I agree with that, to where the main crux of this, like I would take Justin Herbert over Nabers and Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones just looks. I mean, I've had hope for him this year of like, oh, he's getting Malik Nabers, so maybe he still can maybe run. But that last preseason game, man, he looked garbage. It's so bad. He might not survive this season as a starter at all. And every day goes by just makes that contract worse and worse. So I would take Justin Herbert in this one. I would just push my chips in over to the elitely talented quarterback who's probably in a rough situation, and then just hope that we have overblown our concerns about that situation and then he can ascend above that. And then maybe next year they get him an actual wide receiver, and then we're not really worried about it either. It could just be a blip in his dynasty career that this year is a very good buy opportunity for Herbert based on how low his value has actually gotten. So I'll take Herbert and Reed. Hey.
So that's what I got. It was really sad. So the really funny story about this is I was really sad to see Brian Thomas Jr. go. 2 days later, I traded for him back in the same league.
Nice.
But so, yeah, this was offered to me almost as is. The only difference was I was offered Justin Herbert and A.D. Mitchell, and I swapped Mitchell out for Jaden Reed. I'm not the biggest Mitchell fan, but the truth is giving up so much upside in Nabers and Thomas, I wanted someone steady. I wanted someone I know is good. And maybe his ceiling is a little capped because of the Moneyball-like wide receiver core they have. So there is no real number one, but I think Jaden Reed is the best wide receiver in that room. So, and the truth is this felt cheap for Justin Herbert because I broke it down very, very similarly to you. And even in the same theory that like, yeah, right now, Thomas Jr. and Reed are probably the same, but I really do like, no, I'm being dumb. This is Justin Herbert. And if we want to put a little bit of context in here, Daniel Jones was my QB2. So
yikes.
Let's call this an upgrade.
Yeah, that makes me want Justin Herbert even more.
Exactly, right? But like I was not looking for this. You know, none of these players were on my trade block. I didn't put out there that I wanted a quarterback, but someone did their diligence. They went through the rosters. They were probably looking at the value that they asked. They were probably looking to move Herbert. And while we have done many shows talking about how we're kind of worried about it, I'm not that worried about it. Like Malik Nabers would have to be Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson for me to feel like I lost this trade. Even if Herbert drops to like QB 10-ish, like Herbert can have a bad season and Nabers can have a good season, and I'll still feel good about this.
Yeah, I mean Herbert. If Nabers turns into Jefferson or Chase, I think that still hurts again in the short term. But I think given Justin Herbert's talent and how quickly situations can change in the NFL, Herbert could be going right back into being a top 7, top 8 dynasty quarterback, and that would vault him over every dynasty wide receiver, not just Malik Nabers, if he has his ultimate ceiling outcome as a rookie in 2024.
All right, let's move on to the next trade. The next trade is Dak Prescott and Trey Benson for Jaden Daniels, a 26th third, and Michael Mayer. We recently talked about both of the quarterbacks in here, Jaden Daniels and Dak Prescott. This is one of the times I love this. Let me read it and we got that fun little caution. Dak Prescott, 589, Trey Benson, 152 for a total of 741. Caution, Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. Jaden Daniels is in at 637, 26th third is 27, and Michael Mayer is 26 for a total of 690. Like, those two pieces are absolutely like nothing
relevant at all.
But still, it brought up that error message. We're not with the caution message, which I just find funny.
So I am easily taking the Dak Prescott side on this one. I love Jaden Daniels. I think that he is he doesn't necessarily have to try all that hard, and he can be a fantasy QB1 this year, let alone being any higher than that, like a borderline top 5 guy because of the rushing ability. He's looked really, really good in the preseason too. Hopefully he can kind of elevate the offensive weapons that are there. Don't really know what this BS stuff is about Jahan Dotson not being the 2 there, but whatever. But I view Dak Prescott and Jane Daniels fairly similarly, especially if you side more towards the known production of Dak Prescott versus the unknown of Jaden Daniels. That doesn't necessarily weigh in for me, but I think that they're pretty even to where I very easily just want Trey Benson over Michael Mayer in a third. So if I view the 2 quarterbacks very similarly, then the rest of the deal doesn't make sense. I lean very hard towards the Trey Benson side, so I will take Dak and Trey Benson here.
Yeah, and the thing is, I might actually agree with you, even though I got the Jaden Daniels side.
Okay. I kind of figured that you were on the Daniels side.
I love Dak Prescott. The problem with this is Trade Addicts 6, where I don't talk about the Trade Addicts leagues that often in here, but if you guys have and gals listening have never heard of the J Mike Invitational, at J Mike Check, who is a brilliant, wonderful human being, was a big, big, big bad word. And in the 2021 season had 14 of the top 16 draft picks. He had every single first round pick and missed out on 2 of the top second round picks. So Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence hasn't done what he wanted him to be, but
yep.
And that's just not like he put together a juggernaut. He won last year. He's probably going to win again and probably going to win again next year. So there's really just 2 ways you can go about playing this league. Buy your pieces to try and take down the giant, get your win now pieces, go get those Terry McLaurins and Amari Coopers and try and just get lucky more or less, or take the slow build route and actually try and build your dynasty. This is that story. I'm doing the slow build because I have very good draft. I had the 101. I had Caleb Williams on my team. I had Jordan Love and Dak Prescott. So I had 3 quarterbacks and Dak Prescott being one of them on a team that I do not want points on. So I was a little more willing to move Dak. Losing Trey Benson kind of made me sad. But like you said, I wanted Jaden Daniels. I was trying to get Jaden Daniels, and I knew this Dak and Jaden Daniels swap was close enough. And if I have to throw in Trey Benson to get it done, it's more than I should have. Absolutely. But it's really cool to get trades done in person, and I wanted Jaden Daniels, so I did it anyway.
There it is. That's it. Yeah, I feel like Benson was a little too much to give, and you 100% know that's the right answer, and that's probably where you say it a lot: is do as I say, not as I do. So that's if you were to actually do this, and we were to like sit down with somebody who was trying to craft out a trade that was like this, we probably would say, hey, ideally, don't add Trey Benson, especially if you're building towards 2025 and beyond. Benson feels like a very good asset for that because he probably doesn't have much of a role this year unless Connor were to get hurt. And even then, that's probably only for a couple games. But beyond that, if Connor doesn't re-sign with the Cardinals, if you're trying to build a juggernaut for 2025 and beyond, Benson could be a big part of that. Clarifying question. You're tossing both of those quarterbacks on your taxi squad too, right? I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. That's because for people who don't know, TA has taxi squads where you can put any rookie or second year player.
First and second year players. Yeah. You can put them on your taxi squad. So you don't have to put
and
them
no
in
rules
line.
about where you drafted them in rookie drafts or if they're good or not. It's just if you want to put them on there, you throw them on there. So it's kind of like a rebuilding hack where you can dash very good future players and still not be competitive to then get a higher draft pick and then next year. And then you just kind of keep doing that.
There are technically anti-tanking rules, but this is one of those because I don't care about tanking. I really, really don't. So my anti-tanking rules are very vaguely worded, and the taxi squad is one of the ways to get around it.
It's legal tanking. It's like how corporations don't pay taxes. They find ways to like not do stuff legally.
Yeah, it's in the rules. No one has ever gotten upset about it. I'm sorry if you don't like my rules, but you play to the rules that are in your league. All right, so let's go down to the next trade. Whew. All right, this one, another trade with two people that we've talked about lately. Garrett Wilson, Kyle Pitts, and a 25-second for Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, and Isaiah Likely. Now, the important thing to remember here is Trade Addicts leagues are 0.75 premium. That TE premium button on the DLF Trade Analyzer only really accounts for 0.5, so you got to bump the tight ends a little bit more. Garrett Wilson, 612. Kyle Pitts, 387. A 25-second, 94 for a total of 1092. Justin Jefferson, 831. Aaron Jones, 85. Isaiah Likely, 48 for a total of 965.
I already know which side you are on this one. And I 100% agree with it. I am so on board with the Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts side on this one. Basically, I'm going to cross out Aaron Jones and Isaiah Likely with the 25-second. I feel like that's a trade that makes sense on both sides, especially if you get some sort of like contending versus rebuilding aspect thrown into there. So I feel like for the purpose of this whole thing, I just tossed those three assets out so that the main juice of this is Justin Jefferson for Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts in a 1.75 tight end premium. I absolutely love this. I mean, I'm all aboard Kyle Pitts. I think that this is finally the year that we get the massive breakout for him. Everything is the stage has kind of been set for him to have that massive breakout year. And to be able to drop down from Justin Jefferson to Garrett Wilson, and then you added Kyle Pitts for that. I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously, I would take Justin Jefferson over Garrett Wilson, but when you're talking about Jefferson's potential, I'm not going to say like regression, but like down year, and by down year for Justin Jefferson, that might mean he has like only 1,300 yards and like 7 touchdowns. That's really bad for Justin Jefferson, you know? But that would be really great for Garrett Wilson, but they might score pretty similarly this year if Aaron Rodgers, you know, hopefully is significantly better than what Garrett Wilson has had in the past 2 years. Plus Kyle Pitts then. So I love this deal. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I got the Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts side. This was absolutely one of the deals I did after we did our show on Kyle Pitts. This team, Trade Addicts 2 is a touchy subject for me. I've made at least the semifinals for the past like 4 years and constantly make second or third place. So I got angry and I was like, let me get a little younger. Let me spread some stuff around because my team was a little weird. And I don't know, like it felt like this is a team that's going to lose in the first rounds of the playoffs. And I was just like, let me play around a little bit. Let me take some shot on upside is really what it came down to. Justin Jefferson, we know what his upside is. But Garrett Wilson, if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, Kyle Pitts, if things go his way, I mean, not to say that they'll outscore Justin Jefferson, but like having both of them in my lineup, if they really outscore their, you know, projections, I don't even know what their projections are, but like if they outscore their median, like I can really benefit from that breakdown of Justin Jefferson. And that's really what this was. This was a gamble, and I don't usually do gambles, which is why I had my heart pumping a little bit. But yeah, that's everything you said is exactly what it is. Like Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts to me are fun and have that upside that I could have two Justin Jefferson-ish producing level players. Like if they both walk out of here top 10, well, if Wilson scores as a top 10 wide receiver, Kyle Pitts as a top 5 tight end, this is a huge victory for me, even if Justin Jefferson is the wide receiver 1.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to move on to, I mean, I'll spoil this one, another Kyle Pitts trade. And I put this on here. You know, we usually only do like 3 players and a couple of trades, but I needed to put this one on here because it plays to Addison a little bit also, and me. So Kyle Pitts for Jalen Waddle and Bucky Irving. Kyle Pitts, 387.2. Jalen Waddle, 448.9. Bucky Irving, 16.6 for a total of 465.5. So let me just ask you, let's just forget Bucky Irving is in here. Who would you rather have in the 0.75 premium, Kyle Pitts or Jalen Waddle?
I tossed Bucky Irving out of this trade anyway, because I like Bucky Irving, but in the true context of this deal, it doesn't really matter. I feel like I could take a Switzerland approach, not the roster construction approach, but the Switzerland approach of in a 1.75 tight end premium. If you believe that this could be the year for Kyle Pitts, I would trade Jalen Waddle for that because realistically they could have pretty similar stat lines with, you know, how Jalen Waddle, I'm sure Jalen Waddle is probably going to have more yards. maybe a little bit more receptions. But, if Kyle Pitts is also going to have 70 for 1,005 and Waddle has 80 for 1,206, like in the 1.75 tight end premium, Kyle Pitts is going to win on that.
And the positional advantage.
And exactly. And you have the positional advantage of the fact that if Kyle Pitts does that, he's probably a difference-making player at his position. I mean, he will be a difference-making player at the position if that's his stat line. Whereas Waddle, he's probably like the wide receiver 10 to 14 with that stat line that I just gave Waddle. So if you believe that this is going to be Kyle Pitts' year, as I do, I would trade Jalen Waddle for Kyle Pitts. If you don't believe that this is Kyle Pitts' year, I think cashing out for Jalen Waddle is a great way to do that. I think that this works beautifully on both sides. So I feel like I took the Switzerland approach on this one.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I hated sending this. I sent this offer as is to get Kyle Pitts. And the reason it's funny was because I immediately get a message like, I'm a little surprised you added to Waddle to get this done. And I was just like, I got rejected a lot so far today in trying to get Kyle Pitts. I wanted to get it done. I didn't want there to be a discussion. I just wanted you to hit accept. I figured there was a shot you would just take Waddle, but your team is young. You're not going to compete this year. I like Bucky Irving. I do think he will eventually get some play. Hopefully you felt the same way, in which case, if there was a little bit of an edge you were leaning on, that this would give you that shove. He's like, probably would have accepted it as, 1 for 1. And I'm like, don't tell me that. Come on, man. But no, like that's exactly what this was. I wanted to get this done. I didn't want there to be negotiations. So I added a little extra enticement to it. And my Waddle love is also well known on this show, but I really just wanted, this was the first trade I did for Kyle Pitts. And I wanted a Kyle Pitts share. That's all this was. So I paid a little for it. And especially in a premium, you have to pay a little bit for it. So again, just to show that what it says on paper doesn't always really match up to what you need to do in leagues. Also, again, I mean, even if you were to add that little extra bit to Kyle Pitts' value to make this 0.75, it's not catching up to Jalen Waddle.
Right. Like in my mind, I was like, even if you bump up Pitts' value by 10%, then Waddle's at 450 and Pitts would be at like 430. So it's still like the analyzer would still basically have.
It's still Waddle. And yeah. I absolutely acknowledge that, but it's a deal I wanted to get done. And while I believe Waddle will have a better season than he did last year, I believe Pitts is going to have a better season than he had last year. So I think it'll be maybe Pitts up here, Waddle staying exactly where he was, maybe going up a little bit. Like, again, like I was fine with this, even if it doesn't seem to most people that it's in my favor. And I remember when they talked about this on TA, I lost almost unanimously. Everyone picked the Waddle side. All right, so we are moving now down to the last trade, which I realized I should have put these in a different order because this is absolutely ending with a whimper instead of a bang. But I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on Jordan Addison. This is a player that I love the talent, but the talent doesn't really seem to be the issue at the moment. So the trade is DK Metcalf for Jordan Addison in a 26 second. DK Metcalf 320.3 by himself. Jordan Addison 231, 26 second is 61 for a total of 293. So Addison, DK Metcalf, or Jordan Addison in a 26 second. So what are your thoughts on Jordan Addison? I don't remember us really, like I can't remember when we talked about him. Are you a fan of the talent, and does the character issues come into play for you?
I don't really care about the character issues so much. I like the talent, but I think that he has been a sell for me for most of this offseason just because a lot of his production came without Justin Jefferson last year. I mean, he was very touchdown dependent. And then the offense got worse, and now it's, it was Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. Now we know it's Sam Darnold for 2024. And then next year it's going to be an injured JJ McCarthy. And I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, when you put it in the context of this trade, I would just so much rather have DK Metcalf. Like all of the risks, was the production sustainable? What is this new offense or blah, 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 all of that. If you're telling me I just add a second round pick to Jordan Addison, and I go up and get DK Metcalf, who has been a top like 20 wide receiver for the past 4 years in a row. 3 of those I think were top 15, and one of them was a top 10 performance since his rookie year, basically since 2020 in year 2. After his rookie year, he's been a top 20 guy like 4 years in a row. Yeah, I would so much rather just have DK Metcalf.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I was looking to upgrade my roster, my starting lineup, I should say. And to me, that's what 26 seconds are. That's what future seconds are for. Just
upgrading,
make my team a little better. I do believe in Addison. I believe he's going to be good. I just think DK Metcalf is going to outscore him this year and most likely next year. And that's what I was thinking of. Like, this is Trade Addicts 3, a team that I came in second place this last year. So I want to win it. I want to win all the Trade Addicts. There have been 39 Trade Addicts seasons. I think I've complained about this on the show before. There are 11 leagues, but I've started them scattering. So there have been 39 seasons across 11 leagues. I've won 1 season in 1 league.
You have like a 2.5% win rate. To be fair, I am a 0%, but I am 0 for 1. So
yeah, I have this thing where I just can't win leagues that I run. It happens so rarely and the problem is I run more than 3/4 of the leagues I play in. But we did win the Watcher League.
We did. Never forget.
Thank you for co-running that with me, because that's why I was able to win, because it wasn't just me.
Yep. That makes sense. Yeah, so that's why they had the idea of splitting us up, and you were like, no, we're not, because then I
won't win if it's just me. A, Addison's better at this than I am. B, the curse.
It's the curse.
All right. Well, I miscounted. Usually we do 6 trades, but I only pulled 5. I thought I pulled 6. So I hope you enjoyed this. This was fun for me. I really thought this was a good idea because, accountability is necessary every once in a while, and it's fun to have Addison pick the side of the trade that I get, because it makes me feel like I didn't do a stupid move. But yeah, so we are taking next week off because I am going to be on vacation and not thinking about this whatsoever. But this has been the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes, @AdamHayes_. We'll catch you next time.